Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Chronic Chronicles. And today, welcome to a very special and final episode of season one. We're honored to be joined again by Megan, a nurse, endometriosis warrior, and now global pelvic health advocate. This time, Megan's here to share her recent experience on the ground in Kenya, where she joined Campaign 52, a multinational humanitarian group partnered with GynoCare Women's and Fistula Hospital. Their mission to restore dignity, health, and hope to women living with chronic pelvic fistulas, one woman for every week of the year. From April 3rd to April 11th, Megan and the Campaign 52 team worked alongside local staff to complete over 212 life-changing procedures, all aimed at giving women back their freedom, their futures, and their voices. This episode sheds light on the harsh realities of living with a chronic pelvic fistula, the global inequities in women's health, and the incredible healing work being done by teams like Campaign 52 and GynoCare. Whether you're a listener with chronic illness or someone passionate about reproductive justice, this conversation will move you, challenge you, and inspire you. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Chronic Chronicles. It's only been...
Thank you.
When did we do your first episode? Was that in
In
March or was it
February.
in February? I
I
don't
want to say it was
remember.
late February, maybe early March.
Okay. Yeah. So we recorded your first episode a couple months ago, but for the community, it only came out like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, so you're fresh on their brains. Yeah. So this is really exciting. So Megan went on a trip recently, and we're going to talk all about that. Honestly, I'm just going to let you take it away and introduce what you did and where you
Okay.
went.
Great.
So you went to Africa.
Yeah, I went to Africa. Thank you for giving me this platform to come back and talk about this. I'm extremely excited. Again, my name's Megan. I am a registered nurse in Cleveland, Ohio. And at the beginning of April, I had the opportunity to go to Eldoret, Kenya, which is in Africa, on my first ever humanitarian mission. I went with a group called Campaign 52, which is a multinational humanitarian group who aims to gift back hope, dignity, and a better future to one woman for every week of the year, hence Campaign 52. So, 52 weeks in a year, our goal is to gift back those things to at least one woman. I can't
That's
wait to share all
amazing.
about it.
So how did you even how did you hear about this organization or this mission or yeah, how was this like brought
So,
to
two surgeons that I work with in the ambulatory setting went in 2024. And
you?
when they came home, they did a presentation for our department about their trip and their experiences and the culture. And I was just truly moved. You
Yeah.
know, I've always felt a calling to go and do a humanitarian mission and be a part of something larger than myself. And I didn't really know in what capacity that would end up being in. But as I've grown in my career and I've developed in this department, hearing about this experience, I was like, this is for me. I need to do this. And so I approached them and I was like, I'm really interested in going on this trip if you guys were to go again.
Hmm.
I didn't hear anything for months. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not going to work out. They
Yeah.
didn't take a nurse that year. So maybe they just, don't need it and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then in November, one of the surgeons approached me and she's like, are you still interested? I'm like, yes, she's did. So
Very
I
cool.
met with the gentleman who kind of spearheaded this whole thing, and the rest is history.
I love that. I actually so we talked, you and I kind of talked last time. I don't remember if it was actually in the episode or not, or just like us talking about
Mhm.
how I wanted to go to medical school and I worked in healthcare for a while. During that, because I was like, oh, to get into medical school, you need, and nursing school too, but like anything, you need like clinical, actually,
Yeah.
do you need clinical hours for nursing school? I don't know. To like,
Not no. It's typically just like the higher levels of education, like PA and med school that they want us in
okay.
as well.
Well, yeah, like not even clinical hours is just healthcare. You need healthcare
Right.
stuff.
Experience.
Yeah, experience. So, by the way, I'm just gonna say to everybody that's listening, I'm in an endo flare right now, so I feel like I have like brain fog. So we'll see. I feel
We're
like my
gonna get through
words.
this. It's
Yeah,
gonna be okay.
It's more about Megan's experience. But yeah, so I feel like my words are not happening right now. But anyways, long story short, when I was looking for like cool things to do like in the medical field to apply to med school, I met somebody like a surgeon that I was shadowing and he does mission trips in Africa too. I don't remember where it was, but I almost went and did that. The only reason I didn't go is because I needed a yellow fever vaccine. And they literally, like, they were like, the nearest one, I think, was like a 14-hour drive to go get one. And even that, they basically, the clinic, I called them and I was like, hey, so I'll drive to get the vaccine. Like, can I make an appointment? And they were like, no, it's like first come, first serve. So
Cool.
this was back in like 2020, I think. And I don't know what was going on. I mean, other than COVID, but like, I don't
Right,
know what was going on that year that they like just couldn't keep like a stock of it.
right.
Unsure. Anyways, so I was like, okay, maybe it's not meant to be, and then didn't look into it again. But I'm like living through you because I'm like, oh, this is so cool. What kind of like inspired you to be like, yeah, this is 100% something I want to do? I mean, you kind of already said that you felt like pulled towards it from the presentation, but was there anything specific about it that you were like, this part seems like right up my alley?
I think just the stories behind it, right? Like these women are suffering from chronic female pelvic fistulas,
Yeah.
and we see that in Cleveland a lot, but there's healthcare that's so accessible to people. So it's not something that's like a major issue, not necessarily chronic.
Hmm.
I mean, it can be chronic, but
Yeah.
um and so I was just like, this just feels right. Like the trajectory that I'm on with my career and where I'm at and the people that I'm surrounded by and the things that I've been learning,
Hmm.
I wanted to go to a place where like my skills would be useful. And I just felt like there is immense change that could be created with this group. And I think that was the most inspiring thing for me is being able to be a small part of these women's stories and being able
Yeah.
to provide aid and assistance and education and all of the things.
That's so cool. So, what exactly are chronic pelvic fistulas? What is
Yeah,
that?
so a female pelvic fistula is an abnormal tract or an opening that develops between the vagina and another organ or tissue within like the pelvis. So most commonly seen there are VVFs, which are vesicovaginal, which is the bladder and the vagina. So there's a connection between the two. Or RVFs, which are rectovaginal fistula. So there's a connection between the rectum and the vagina. And what happens is when people have these openings, they leak urine and stool constantly.
Like, sorry,
Oh, that's okay.
I have no idea. I've actually never heard of this until
Yeah,
now. So I'm like, well, until you. So my experience, so when I think of a fistula, I think about dialysis because I worked in dialysis and but
right.
that's like a surgical fistula. Like we create
Correct.
one by
Mhm.
sewing a vein and an artery together.
Yes.
So so this happens like naturally, like that, like how does that even
No.
happen?
So, most common causes of these female pelvic fistulas are prolonged or obstructed labor. So,
Oh,
women in sub-Saharan Africa in these like small villages, like Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya,
yeah.
areas like that, um, can labor for 3+ days without proper access to, a midwife or maternal or emergency services. So baby gets stuck in the vaginal canal.
Oh God.
Unfortunately, a
Yeah.
lot of times baby passes away. And then women suffer severe complications, these female pelvic fistulas, because of the trauma to their pelvic region.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So, while that is the main contributing factor, other contributing factors can be that they're very young at their first pregnancy or birth. A lot of these women culturally get married off very young.
Hmm.
Sex is very important in the culture, and getting pregnant is very common at a young age. Poverty and limited access to healthcare. I mean, these people can be days and days away from a hospital.
Yeah.
Um, Nutrition, cultural practices or beliefs. So, like we talked about, being married young, and then traumatic events. I don't know how sensitive
No,
by
go
and large
ahead.
places
Yeah.
are, but like sexual violence, female genital mutilation, or
Hmm.
congenital malformations where they were born with the fistula to begin with are the main things that we kind of see in regards to these cases.
Yeah. So when you I'm still like stuck on like what the fistula actually is. Like, so say that they have fistula between like the vagina and rectum.
Mhm.
That's like inside your body, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And when you say like leaking urine or stool, do you mean like into the body or like
So
you're
people, for example, like for a VVF, so the bladder and the vagina, they
yeah.
constantly leak urine. So like they constantly have to wear diapers because urine is
Okay.
constantly coming out of their.
Okay, so like physically leaking out. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Sorry.
I was in my brain, I was like thinking like it's like backflowing into like the abdominal cavity or
God.
something. I'm like, how do they not
No.
get sepsis from? I mean, they could in general,
Right.
but I'm just like,
With
what?
rectovaginal fistulas, with stool getting into the vagina, sometimes infections can happen. But yeah, so a lot of times with a rectovaginal fistula, the stool enters into the vagina and then they are urinating stool or stool's coming out of the vagina.
Yeah,
So
that sounds awful.
very, it's it's not fun.
Yeah, that sounds awful. So, how common are these in, I guess, I mean, from what I'm getting from this, it sounds like it has a lot to do with like where they are, like in Africa and like the poverty and non-access to healthcare. Like these sound like very like preventable things. If
Hmm.
like in America, for example, like I've never heard of this, so it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it's a very common thing here, but obviously common there, which is just heartbreaking. But so how common are they like in that region?
Yeah. So, according to WHO, the World Health Organization, up to 3
Hmm.
million in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia are suffering from obstetric fistula. So, we see about 5 cases per 1,000 women. And that's just like an estimate. That number can be
Yeah.
significantly increased. And again, these are in places like Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, Tanzania, areas
Hmm.
where you don't have access, limited access, or there's a lot of stigma and people aren't getting the help that
Yeah.
they need when they need
Yeah.
it.
From what I'm getting from this, this is preventable if we have like correct access, knowledge,
Correct.
not like stigma against it, I guess. So what are some ways that it can be prevented, I guess, actually? Because I feel like if you, I don't know, like if babies are getting stuck, like they're not having, this is just, we don't live in this type of country. So like
Yeah.
it's so interesting and sad to like really think about like going through like a whole pregnancy without probably an ultrasound ever, like knowing like what is going. They could be going into labor and the baby's breached and they have no idea.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's probably a big
Yeah. I mean,
issue.
when you think about it, most of these families are living in tin huts with no
Yeah.
running water, no electricity, dirt floors. If they're not in a major city like Nairobi, and even in Nairobi, you see some of this sometimes too. But when you're in these like villages where you're really out of the way of so many things, these
Uh-huh.
families, there's 5 to 6 people living in these huts, and they don't have transportation to get to facilities, and they don't have,
Yeah.
the proper means money wise to get the care that they deserve and that they need.
Yeah.
Um, so in regards to like a preventable aspect, right? I think that a huge thing is raising awareness for one, equipping them with proper, healthcare individuals that are more readily available to them in these
Hmm.
situations. Even midwives, they don't call them midwives. I'm not sure what they call them. Maybe they do. I can't remember. But
Yeah.
even just training them properly and
Yeah,
educating
some type
them.
of like signs or something to look out for to be like, okay,
Mhm.
this like this is a point where you somehow need to figure out how to get to a
Mhm.
doctor or something. Um, but I don't even like that's it's
And
so
that's the
hard
hard
when you
part,
like
right? Is like
hear.
even if you make that decision, you're laboring for 24 hours, this person could be 5 days away
Yeah.
from,
So like
which is
even if
insane to think
you
about here, right? Like you don't,
yeah.
that's
I know
not
it's hard.
really a thing.
I know like this type of stuff is so hard to like actually
Right. Yeah.
conceptualize like you're like to actually take in the gravity of like what these people are going through like because I would say I'm a like pretty empathetic person but like there's no way for me to like actually empathize with that because I could never even begin to put my like you can now that you were there firsthand but
Yeah.
like, obviously it's just so interesting because you're like how do I even wrap my brain around the
And
thought of
that's why
like
this is so important to talk about. Like
yeah
they push that really heavy, this is really important to raise awareness about, which I understood, but I didn't understand the full gravity of it until I was there and
yeah
seeing what was happening and talking to these women and hearing their stories.
yeah
Like you having me on here today to talk about this doesn't just impact me, but it impacts every single woman that's over there fighting to
yeah
get better access to healthcare and get, a surgical procedure that could literally change their life.
yeah. So when you went there,
Hmm.
like where did you say you were again? Like were you
I was in
actually
Eldoret, Kenya. So it's northwest of the country
okay.
and just a little bit above the equator.
Okay. So what did that like experience look like? Were you obviously you had to be in some type of like I know
We
that the
stayed in a
hots
hotel.
okay, cool.
Yeah. It was
Um
actually a relatively nice hotel. It was like in the center of a mall, which was kind of shocking to
yeah, you're like
see.
what?
Um,
Was it a
but
full like hospital that you were like at or was it like a clinic? I know that like when I was gonna go do um, the mission in Africa, I was going to work as like a surgical tech, which is so interesting because I'm like, I was a dialysis technician. I did
yeah,
not have like credentials to do that, but like the surgeon that I was going with was like, it's different there. Like,
yeah,
so he was like, I will walk you through, like, you're not doing the surgery. You might help me like resect or like, but
right.
I was like, that is crazy. So, what did that like look like for you? Was it a full hospital or was it just like a
So
building?
it's like a hospital.
Yeah.
Like there's operating rooms, there's wards, which would be their units. They call them
Hmm.
wards. There's a fistula ward, a maternity ward, private wards, and an ICU.
Okay.
But typically we're treating the fistulas. So anything else that might need, more medical attention, like for example, somebody, is having uncontrolled hypertension or like diabetes or
Yeah.
they're having other medical emergencies, you typically send them out to a higher level care facility because it's the name of the hospital is GynoCare Women's and Fistula Hospital. So like their main
Okay.
focus is
Yeah.
fistula care.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
What was like a typical day working there like?
So we'd get up around 6 in the morning, we'd go down to the hotel and eat breakfast, and then we'd all pack into this like giant van. We'd have about a 20-minute drive from the hotel to the hospital. And it wasn't that far. It was just there's a lot of traffic in the mornings. And it's very interesting. The most like common mode of transportations are either walking or a motorcycle, which was like really interesting. There's motorcycles everywhere. So we would drive to the ho or the hospital, and the road to the hospital is a mile long, and it's completely dirt, and it's like so bumpy, and it's just so funny because all of us in the morning are like, "Woo!"
I don't know how I would do with that with like and my
We
nostril.
would always say, like, if someone was coming down that road and they were like really close to delivering, the baby would be
Oh,
delivered
for
on.
real. And like it would be flying out. Like, we're good. Uh,
So we'd get to the hospital. The first day was kind of like just getting everything together and kind of triaging people, but you'd come in,
mhm.
we'd go to the conference room, we'd go over cases for the day, responsibilities of each person, who was in which operating room, and then if that you weren't in the operating room, where you were located, whether you were doing rounds on the ward or whether you were in the colposcopy rooms. Um, so I would typically start my morning on rounds so that I could see people either post-operatively or anyone that needed ostomy care, check in
Mhm.
with the nurses there to see if they needed assistance with anything. And then I'd kind of just be present for whoever needed me. This was the first year that they brought a nurse, so I think we were all just kind of trying to figure out where I fit into
Yeah.
the equation of everything, but it ended up working out really well. I got called to the OR several times to do ostomy pouching care, and then to the ward and the clinic. I was there a lot just assisting with the patients and
Okay.
things like that. It was very interesting. It was very
Yeah.
different than what I'm used to. We would have lunch at the hospital, which was provided by the kitchen, and let me tell you, that kitchen staff is they're angels. Okay, they're angels. They fueled us every single day. If it were not for them, I think a bunch of us would have been on the ground. Non-functioning. And the really neat thing about the food is that most of it comes from Dr. Mabea's farm. Now, Dr. Mabea is who founded GynoCare and who is the leading surgeon at GynoCare. And so it was really neat to be able to eat the local food. And then
Yeah.
after lunch, we would pick up right where we left off before we had lunch. Surgeries would continue, rounding would continue. And then at the end of the day, myself, along with Kareem, who was like our administration lead, and then one of the surgeons that was on rounds or whatever the case may have been, we all got together and we came up with the operating room schedule for the following day, what cases were going to go where. And then we updated this Word doc that I had created on the first day with every single patient from start to finish so that we could update. They're having surgery today, they're having surgery tomorrow, they're post-op day one, so that everybody could be on the same page when they were rounding and seeing the patient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. How how would you say that it was different from like what you like, I don't know, what you do now? Obviously it's completely different, but
Yeah.
like what are some like big differences?
So in the ward, there can be up to over 100 women in there, and sometimes there's 2 to 3 women per bed because there's not
Oh
enough
my
space to
gosh.
house everyone. And these women are there for surgical intervention, and they will do whatever they have to do. And
Wow.
so that was very different to see. The supplies are very different. Like instead of IV bags, they have these bottles, and like instead of having them like hooked up all the time, like the needle gets like stuck into the bottle until like it's like ready to like be used again. It's like really
Interesting.
interesting. Like there is a
Yeah.
lot of things that are different. Everyone gets fed at the same time, like every single day. So like the kitchen staff comes down and like feeds everyone right there. Like they bring the cart with all the food and then they give people their plates and then walk around the whole ward. The hospital is like basically outside. So like it's covered, but the only thing that's like the roof is like this tin like roof cover. So like when it rains, like it's like raining inside of like I don't think I have a good picture.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really interesting because you were basically like in the elements. Obviously, like the
Yeah.
operating rooms are covered and the conference rooms, like everything's pretty much covered. But like the center of the hospital, it was like open. And then there was like a tin roof over top of it. It was really neat,
That's
actually. I
so
kind of
interesting.
liked it.
Aren't
Um,
the bugs bad though? Like, were there like bugs in? Oh,
no.
okay.
So like it wasn't mosquito season.
Okay.
Typically, mosquitoes don't tend to be as bad in Eldoret, from what I was understanding from like the conversations.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I didn't see a ton of bugs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was
Um,
very interesting.
Are there any power? I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of patient stories, like powerful moments, but are there any stories that like stuck out to you that you want to share? I mean, obviously you don't have to.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I were actually on I took over the campaign Instagram, and while we were there, Kareem and I got to interview some of the women, and we're going
mm.
to be doing a series on our Instagram called Survivor Stories.
Ooh,
So 7 women will be featured on the Instagram sharing their stories. So I'm not going to share any of theirs. I'll plug the Instagram so that you guys can go listen to those on your own time. I feel like it's only right for them to have their
yeah,
voices heard on their own.
I
But
agree.
I have
What's
two.
the Instagram at?
It is campaign_52.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes too, but yeah,
Okay.
definitely. That's really cool.
So we're in the process of like getting that up and running, which I'm really excited for because these women deserve to be heard. But one thing that I found to be most impactful while I was there and something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life is I got called to clinic one day because there was a 3-year-old who needed her ileostomy pouched. But what I wasn't
Mm.
expecting is that she was suffering from congenital malformation, which means that she had no vaginal or anal opening when she was born.
Oh my
And her
gosh.
bladder was sitting on the outside of her body, which is called bladder exstrophy. And so it was
Wow.
really devastating to see. And it was really hard to be in there and holding myself together. But seeing her smile and seeing how happy she was and how playful she was really gave me a different look and insight on it. And she was admitted later on, and she had 2 surgeries while she was with us, and I got to be present for both of them. On the final
Wow.
day of the campaign, I got to carry her into the operating room, and we sang "You Are My Sunshine" to her until she went to sleep.
Oh, I'm gonna
It-
cry.
I
Like,
know, I
for
get
chill.
teary-eyed just thinking about it. And they were able to completely excise the bladder, find her ureters, and pull them up to create an ileoconduit. And hopefully she'll have a better quality of life. And but I mean, just I just remember her running around the hospital and holding your hand and smiling and laughing, and
It's
you
so
would never
sweet.
know that she had the
Yeah.
problems that she had. I know.
I know we're both like teary-eyed.
I mean, this is probably not going to be the first time, the last time that
Oh,
I cry as I'm sharing these stories, but it's so
it's
impactful.
so
Like,
important.
know that she's as young as she is, and she has just this bright and beautiful soul that radiates
Yeah.
to so many people, and to just be a part of those small moments and to be a small part of her overall story just felt so life-changing for me. And it was such like an honor to be there. And now I get to be here lifting these women up and
Yeah.
raising awareness for them.
Oh my gosh. That's so important. I'm so proud of you for being a part of that and
Thank you.
it's amazing. Um, I mean, wow. What stood out to you, emotionally or professionally? Like, do you feel like this has changed like you as a person, like how you feel?
I feel so. Dr. Abbas, who started Campaign 52, said that one of the people at the very end of the trip said that he now remembers his life before Africa and after Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, I wonder what the impact is going to be on me. And
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm home, I can genuinely say that there are two different people. There is Megan who went to Africa, and there's Megan who came home from Africa. And
Oh,
my heart is larger and warmer. My eyes are wide open. And I
mm-hmm.
think it's really about perspective, right? Like I got a complete perspective change in
Yeah.
everything and how I see the world and how I view healthcare and my own life, and how grateful I am to be in the position that I'm in.
Yeah.
Even though I'm suffering from chronic illness and I've had to fight very hard to get access to the care that I deserve,
Mm-hmm.
I've never had to fight the way that these women have to fight. And I've never
Yeah.
felt the pure isolation that they have felt from everything that they have had to go through. And so it's really given me a perspective on how I think about things, right? Like things are allowed to be hard. It's not a competition like this person has it harder than me, but it's about reframing my thoughts and how I view things
Yeah.
now that I've been in these situations. Like how can I adjust my thoughts
Yeah.
to create this to make this situation just a little bit better for myself?
Yeah. I could see how that would um be like view changing, like kind of I'm trying to figure out how to say this like in the correct way. I feel like sometimes the chronic illness community can feel just like I don't know how to say this. I don't want to I don't know. Like we obviously we have to like fight for things and especially like us with endometriosis, like barriers to figure like there's still a lot that needs to happen. And I feel like sometimes, and I've seen this a lot in the chronic illness space, but also like even in myself, there was kind of like this time a couple of years ago where I was like, okay, I need to like take myself out of this like I hate this like word, but like victim mindset because I put myself in that box because I was like, why would this happen to me? Like this isn't fair. Like
Mhm.
everyone else can go do all this stuff and like it's just not fair that I have to deal with this and like my doctors don't care and they don't listen and I have to like fight with everyone and I just felt very like victimized. I
Mhm.
wish there was a different word that I can use because I hate saying that word. But
Yeah.
and I feel like sometimes I like see that, like I see people in the chronic illness space, not all the time, but they're just like, you know, every time I go to the doctor, like they are like kind of not like out to get me, but like it's just always a fight. And it does feel like that sometimes, but then you like you like go to this space and you're like, yes, my experiences are still valid. I had to fight, but like not nearly in the way that I don't know if that hopefully that makes sense to people that
Mhm.
are listening. But I kind of had not a similar experience, but I just had an experience a couple of years ago where I was like, uh, it sucks. Yeah. Like my life isn't as easy as like some of my friends in that way. But then I also was like, but also like other people's lives are not easy either. Like they have to like push through and like keep fighting. And I just was like, you know what? Like being in the victim mindset is only hurting me. Like no one else even
Yeah.
knows that like, you know. Anyways, that was kind of irrelevant but relevant.
No. It is relevant, right? Because like I'm in saying those things and you saying those things, we're not trying to take away from the chronic illness community and the
No.
battles that we fight here in our own healthcare system. But it's just understanding and realizing that I am blessed. I am truly blessed.
Yeah.
While endometriosis and chronic illness can be very isolating. I've never been shunned from my home. I've never been kicked out of my community. I've never had to learn how to fend for myself. I've never had to fight a stigma so hard that people are claiming that my illness is coming from evil spirits or witchcraft. Like those are the stigmas that exist in these communities because of the
Yeah.
lack of education that exists. It's very culturally based. They think it's hereditary, that it's associated with evil spirits, right? And these stigmas and this lack of education is what creates these women to stay isolated and prevents them from getting the help that they need. And so to bring it back to what we were saying, it's not this competition about who has it worse, but it's about understanding and realizing and empathizing with the fact that we're truly in a privileged space in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are. And I'm I know. It's so I feel like I like now that I've had the podcast for like a year and I'm like in this like space like heavy, I feel like I like find myself sometimes like like I don't know. I'm just like I feel like somebody's gonna have something to say about saying that we're privileged, but I just hope that anybody that's listening can really like understand what we're saying and like yeah.
Privileged in the sense that we have access to healthcare, and while
We
that might not
are.
always be easy, you can
Yeah.
drive, you can get to the doctor, you have access to specialists, you have access to
Yeah. We have public transportation if you like can't like there are ways whereas like what you were saying like it would take 5 days to get like we don't experience that
Yeah.
um anyways.
Don't come for us, guys. Lexi and I love you, okay? We love our chronic illness community.
I know I love
It's
all of you and I
time
love the
to
chronic illness
raise,
community.
raise
I
awareness about what's going.
I know sometimes I get scared and I'm like oh somebody always
But
has
like
something
these are the
to
difficult
say.
conversations we have
These
to have,
are yeah
right?
like it's
This
fine
is how
any
we create change and raise awareness, and not everybody's going to be happy, and there might be people that have things to say, but we're coming from the best place with the best intentions.
yeah and honestly somebody always has something that they disagree with, and that is totally fine. I'm open to hear everyone's opinions on things. And if anything, it just makes more of a conversation.
Please, let's have a conversation.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, that's fine. This episode is all about restoring dignity and supporting people living with chronic pelvic conditions. And that's something I think about a lot when it comes to the products I use day to day. Two brands that I genuinely love and trust are Periodile and Octavia. Periodile makes reusable period underwear and pads that are not only sustainable but actually comfortable, even during a flare. For me, it's been a game changer to have period products that don't irritate my skin, they don't leak, and they help me feel a little bit more in control when my body already feels really out of control. And then there's Octavia, my go-to CBD suppositories. If you deal with pelvic pain, cramping, or even deep aching that's like really hard to describe, you know how important it is to have a gentle, targeted relief. Octavia's products were made with chronic pain in mind, and it shows. You can check out both brands in the show notes, and as always, I only partner with companies that I personally use and love. I wanted to ask you about like how you did on this trip with the chronic illness. Like how did you deal? Did you have any flares? Did you yeah.
Yeah, so I was very fearful of getting my period while we were there,
Hmm.
and I was good for the first week. Then Saturday, our second day of clinical work shows up. I'm up at 3 a.m. in the bathroom, nauseous. I can't stop going to the bathroom. I'm like, oh
No.
gosh, it's here. I was like, I might have to take the day off. I was so sick. I was dizzy. I just didn't feel well. Like I had like whole body shakes. I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to like function today. I eventually got back in bed around 5 and I got about another hour and a half of sleep. And I got up and I was like, you know what, Megan? This really sucks right now. And you're in a
Yeah.
ton of pain, but these women need you.
Hmm.
So I took my ibuprofen and I took my rear end down to breakfast. I ate, I got on the van. I was like telling myself, okay, we're gonna take this 1 hour at a time. If it gets really bad, you can go back and it's gonna
Hmm.
be okay. But by the time I got halfway through the day, I was like, all right, I've made it halfway through the day. We can do this, you know? And it was really difficult. There was nights where I had a hard time sleeping because I was in a new space. The altitude was really high, so, trying
Hmm.
not to get altitude sickness on top of having like chronic inflammation and all of these other things was, I had a lot of anxiety surrounding it, but once I kind of got into the flow of my day to day and I understood, what my days were going to look like, it kind of eased the anxiety a little bit because I knew how to
Yeah.
structure my drinking, how to eat properly to fuel myself for the day, and really just staying on top of taking my ibuprofen and, taking extra time to rest if need be.
Yeah.
We had this conversation the last time. I was very open with people. I'm struggling with this. I need a few minutes, you know?
Hmm.
But yeah, it was hard, but I wouldn't have changed it. It was just another part of the story that just kind of
I know I'm thinking about you being on that like bumpy road, and I'm like, I would be on Zofran every day. Like,
Oh, don't you worry. Every morning with breakfast, that or non-drowsy Dramamine, I'm like, oh gosh. The one morning I got my period, I'm like, Megan, please just do not get sick. Do not get
yeah,
sick while
don't
you're on
puke.
this road.
I know. I even like for some reason, I mean, I've always had motion sickness and like I've always had nausea, but like the past probably 2 years, I'm nauseous almost every day. Like I am waking up and I'm nauseous almost every day. My doctor thinks that I'm like developing vertigo actually, because now, like in the past 2 years, I've ruptured what side is this? My right eardrum twice. So he's like, I think you're getting vertigo. I think this is what's happening. And I'm like, okay, great. So that's really fun. That has made like traveling for me like really hard. Like I used to never get nauseous on flights, or like if it was really turbulency, I'd get a little bit nauseous, but it'd go away. Oh boy. Like the flights now that I live in Washington, we're always going back to Michigan, so they're like 5 hours long. Like we don't have quick flights anymore.
Right.
I am like fighting a battle every time I'm on a freaking airplane recently. And my boyfriend is just like, what is going on with you? And I'm like, I am like fighting throw up for like 5 hours. Like it's even like Zofran is like barely touching it. So more power to you. I'm like, I don't even know. Like the flight to Africa, I would be
13 and a half hours.
to date me. Like I don't think so. Oh man. Um, well, I'm proud of you for pushing through, but also like listening to your body and just, yeah, it's hard. Like doing that trip in general would be exhausting, but doing that trip with chronic illness too is just like, whoo. But also, I'm sure you have like so much like adrenaline and like excitement and anxiety and that.
Oh, the
Oh,
adrenaline was going. I worked
yeah.
7-12 straight.
Oh my
And then we
God.
got to the airport Friday and I was like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm down bad
The
now.
adrenaline
Yeah.
is gone. Like I've never worked 7-12s in my life and not gotten sick.
Oh yeah, I
Like
don't
these
know.
12 straight, I'm like,
Yeah.
so I was very proud of myself. I took care of myself. I took my vitamins. I stayed on top of like my routine things that I needed to, and it ended up working out okay for me. I had my struggles on some days, but in the grand scheme of things, I really came out unscathed, which
Yeah.
I'm so proud of
Impressive.
myself for.
It's impressive. I'm proud of you too. I know. I feel like when you also are doing something like so exciting like that, like I say once in a lifetime, but like you'll probably go back. But like that type of experience, like somehow your body is just like we have to cooperate right now. Like we are going to be good. That's how I felt like this last weekend too, like in DC. Like, I mean, I was exhausted and I had like some cramping, but like I was able to push through. Like, I was doing like long ass days speaking to people nonstop. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like somehow my body. And then I got home and I'm like, oh, I'm dead.
Crash.
Yeah.
Crash.
So we kind of already talked about like stigma around pelvic issues and access to care and stuff, but um I don't know, I kind of want to talk more about just like how these women are like treated and like how, yeah, the stigma around it, but also like what does like the recovery look like after these surgeries too? Is it always like, were you able to treat any of these without surgery or like they're all at the point where like they need surgery? Okay.
Well, intervention is like
Yeah.
tier 1. So unfortunately, as I said a little bit when I was talking about stigma a little bit
Hmm.
ago, these women are disowned. They're kicked out of their homes. They
Because
lose
they
their
have a pelvic
husbands.
disorder? Like, that's so wild to me.
Because, well, one, they're looked at as not like cleanly anymore because they're leaking urine and stool.
Yeah.
Two, there's the cultural side of things, right? Where they see this as like an evil spirit thing, like, what did you do to have this happen to you? That's how they're looked at, like,
Yeah.
are you not a good person? Are you sinning? Are you, what caused the evil spirits to come for you in this way?
Yeah. Or
Um,
like if they are unable to have a baby, like are they even worth having around in like their culture's eyes? Like that's so sad.
it's devastating. It was one of the really, really hard things to hear.
Hmm.
And it's so common in so many of the stories that I heard while I was there. That's a very common thing.
Yeah.
Um, they're they can't get jobs. So they're just kind of left to fend for themselves and to figure it out. And unfortunately, because of the lack of access to healthcare, GynoCare is amazing. Like, I just want to say this to anyone that's listening to this podcast. GynoCare and Dr. Mabea and the work that he's been doing for the over the last decade is truly inspiring. And he is spearheading major things that are going to continue to help these women, and we're just a small part of that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to take away from the fact that GynoCare and Dr. Mabea have been doing this work for over a decade. Like, Campaign
Hmm.
52 is phenomenal and what we're doing is great, and I'm so happy that we get to be a part of it, but I don't want to take away from the simple fact that he's been doing this for as long as he has. And he's been able to help so many women, and now we can work together to continue to help those women.
Yeah.
So the work that him and his team are doing to bring these women in and provide free surgeries for them so that they don't have that the medical debt weighing on them is a beautiful thing. And so I
Yeah.
think that, when these women have proper access and they have access to free surgeries like this,
Yeah.
it's a game changer. And
Yeah.
to kind of help them after surgery, GynoCare and Beyond Fistula have worked together. So Beyond Fistula is a nonprofit organization that was created in 2012 by a gynecologist in California. And she saw a need to help these women reintegrate back into society. So
Yeah.
they raise funds that help put these women through school and education, trades like
Oh,
sewing or agricultural or things like that. And they've helped 830 women graduate and get on their feet and establish a source of like
that's
income or business
amazing.
that they can take off and run with on their own. And it's absolutely beautiful. I got to go and see Beyond Fistula and watch them sew and do their work. And it was just a beautiful thing to see and be a part of. So not only is GynoCare helping with these life-changing operations, but then there is a program to help women reintegrate back into society,
Yeah, that's
that they have
amazing.
a way to make income and get back on their feet after going through everything that they've gone through.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like the surgeries in itself are like life-saving, but like the Beyond Fistula sounds like it's like life-changing. That both of them are just definitely needed. What resources are most needed on the ground? Like what can we do? Like what can we send them?
So funds are huge.
Hmm.
Funds are like donations to the hospital and to Beyond Fistula are what allows them to do what they do. So, donations to GynoCare allows them to continue to provide free surgeries for the women, free
Yeah.
hospital stays, free food, everything like that. Beyond Fistula, it allows them to help put these women through education and trade so that they can get back on their feet with their families and their kids and find their way
Yeah.
back out into the world. Education and awareness are massive. We need more people on the ground, whether it be here or there, going around and educating people and addressing the barriers that we've talked about so many times now, the distance and transportation to receive
Hmm.
that care and the cost, right? Because we're providing the operations, but it still costs money to get there. It still costs money to get these people to and from their villages in order to have these procedures. Um,
Yeah.
Skilled healthcare professionals. So it's like Dr. Mabea and a couple other local surgeons that are running GynoCare. And so it's, making sure that they're equipped with the resources, which again goes back to funds and being able to pay these people and
Yeah.
keep the hospital up and moving. And then lastly, we've recently started an immunization effort to immunize women and young girls against HPV because cervical cancer is another really prevalent condition there. And so we've just recently started immunization efforts and we've been able to immunize over 1,000 girls. But again, people on the ground to immunize, and their social workers and their team there are so phenomenal in doing this. I got to meet Josephine, who's on the ground going to these schools, educating the children about, what HPV is, why it's important to get the immunization and cervical cancer. So there's a lot that's needed, but I think that for people who can't be there physically and on the grounds, donations and funds, I think, are the biggest thing
Yeah,
that
the
can
biggest
help us
thing.
continue to propel this forward.
Wow. Well, I will put all of the links in the show notes to Campaign 52. And is there like a link or I guess like the
I
name?
can send you the hospital link.
Yeah, yeah. I can put all
Um,
that in the show notes and then people can look more into it.
mhm.
And I mean, thank you so much. You were a part of something really amazing. And I think that hopefully people take away some education from this episode. I think that they will. I don't, like I said, I'd never heard of this prior to you going there. So even that, like you educated one person. So I think this was really important to talk about. So thank you so much.
And I hope, the people listening just take away that these women, they really just need us to be their voices over here to raise awareness and create
Yeah.
advocacy, because all they really want is hope. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, they want hope that someone's going to be able to help them, and hope that there's a better life ahead for them, and that there are brighter days with better access, better understanding, and less isolation from their communities and their families. So if you just talk about it with one person, or
Yeah.
you ask questions and you reach out, or you want to get involved somehow, like anything and
Yeah.
everything helps. So thank you again, Lexi, for having me on for the
Yeah.
second
Thank
time. It is an
you.
absolute privilege. And thank you to everyone for listening.
As we wrap up today's episode and officially close out season 1, I want to thank you all for being a part of this journey. Whether you only listen occasionally, you listen every single week, or maybe you follow the Instagram and you just thought you would listen this week, I truly appreciate every single one of you. From intimate stories of chronic illness to powerful global missions like this one, with your help, we've created a space where science, advocacy, and lived experience all belong together. If Megan's story moved you, please consider supporting the work of Campaign 52 or GynoCare Women's and Fistula Hospital. These are not just medical missions, they're lifelines for women whose pain has too often been ignored. Season 2 is already in the works, and we have some incredible conversations ahead. But for now, I hope this final episode reminds you of the power of community, the power of compassion, and the power of lifting up the voices that matter most. Until next season, which, by the way, is next week, we're not actually taking a break, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.